When Renee MacRae married a Scottish millionaire, many assumed she would be set for life. But money doesn't always buy you love or happiness. On a seemingly normal day in November of 1976, Renee and her 3-year-old son, Andrew, were driving to visit Renee's sister, but were never seen again, vanishing without a trace. Today on Dark Matters, one of Scotland's most infamous and tragic unsolved cases, the MacRae disappearances. Christina Catherine MacDonald, who later would become known as Renee, caught the eye of millionaire and business owner Gordon MacRae when she was in her 20s with her, quote, attractive and fun nature. By the 1970s, the MacRaes had 2 sons, 9-year-old Gordon Jr. and 3-year-old Andrew, who was known as a lovable mischief maker. Everyone thought the family had an idyllic, wealthy life, but by 1975, the marriage crumbled. The reason behind the couple's separation wasn't revealed until later, after Renee disappeared, taking her son along with her. After dropping off Gordon Jr. for school on the morning of Friday, November 12, 1976, Renee chatted with her best friend Valerie Steventon and her housekeeper Margaret Ross over coffee until 11:45, when Renee took Margaret back to the house to complete housework for the day, then excitedly confided in Valerie about starting over in Shetland, before they parted ways. After picking up Gordon from school, Renee dropped him off with her estranged husband at his business offices in Inverness around 5 p.m. She vowed to pick him up from school on Monday after a weekend away at her sister's in Kilmarnock with her youngest son, Andrew. From there, she left with Andrew in her light blue BMW 1602, a car that belonged to Gordon but that he allowed her to use. She took the busy A9 road south towards Perth, but she never reached her destination. Sometime between 9 and 10:30 p.m., a bus driver named Colm McGregor pulled over to a remote rest stop along A9 where he saw a burning, abandoned BMW. The police later traced it back to Renee, but the car was charred black and offered only a single clue, a large bloodstain in the trunk of the car that matched Renee's blood type. Still, the missing mother and son were nowhere to be seen. The hunt for answers and for Renee and her missing son began, orchestrated by Detective Sergeant John Cathcart. Authority searchers numbered above 100 and citizen volunteer searchers even more than that, all combing the flooded moorland in heavy torrential downpours. Gordon MacRae was offering a $1,000 reward for information leading to his wife and son's whereabouts, but 2 weeks of scouring the nearby land turned up nothing. Even after the Royal Air Force employed heat-seeking scanning devices while gliding over the highlands and divers searched with underwater equipment, there was still no trace of Renee MacRae or Andrew. One witness remembered seeing a man along the side of the A9, not far from Renee's burning BMW, dragging what they thought was a dead sheep. In an eerie parallel, Renee was last seen wearing a sheepskin coat. Other witnesses claimed they saw a man with a stroller close to a nearby quarry that same night. Police also entered Renee's apartment and were surprised to find many of her possessions and Andrew's toys were packed up, as if she were about to take a trip. This was the last clue investigators had for a decade, but it was around 1986 that the Northern Constabulary changed Renee and Andrew's disappearance to a murder case. Due to the circumstances of their disappearance and a lack of any clues or bodies, police concluded the two were likely murdered and their bodies hidden. This seemed especially plausible after the authorities found out the reason the MacRae's marriage deteriorated. 5 years after getting married, Renee met Bill McDowell, the accountant for her husband's million-dollar business, and a love affair began. For 4 years it continued, Renee completely smitten with Bill, who made promises to leave his wife so they could start a life together in Shetland as a family. Bill, Renee, and Andrew. It was later discovered that Andrew MacRae was the biological son of Bill McDowell and not Renee's estranged husband. Reportedly, Gordon knew of the affair, but not the identity of Renee's lover until the investigation began. Afterwards, he fired Bill McDowell from his company. Renee's best friend Valerie Steventon later revealed she'd known about the affair and said that Renee had been on her way to see Bill the night she vanished, and not her sister. According to Bill, Renee never showed up to the house, and he denied claims that he ever intended to leave his wife, leading Renee's best friend to believe that Bill was weaving a, quote, pack of lies to Renee. But much to detectives' surprise, Bill willingly went to the station for questioning. He told police about a secret code used between the two of them. Bill or Renee would call the other and let it ring a certain number of times before hanging up, to let the other know who was calling. Bill claimed on 2 separate occasions he'd gotten these coded calls after Renee's disappearance, and therefore he believed she was out there somewhere alive. But then, in a strange twist of events, before detectives could ask any more questions, Bill's wife, Rosemary McDowell, quote, stormed into the interview room and pulled her husband away, demanding privacy. Bill's only alibi was provided by his wife, and he denies any involvement in Renee's disappearance. Without any way to tie Bill to the crime, authorities turned to excavating the nearby Dalmagari quarry. Upon digging, one of the investigators caught the scent of decay just beneath the first layer of dirt. Unfortunately, a senior officer halted the digging, allegedly due to low department funds not allowing them to keep the bulldozer any longer. So not only were the police dealing with an investigation marred by buried family secrets and affairs, when they had a possible break, the excavation of the quarry wasn't completed, and it wasn't until 2004, after a TV documentary brought the case back into the spotlight, that another dig was commissioned. Over the course of 2 years, £250,000 were spent on the excavation of the Dalmagari quarry and reopening the case, and still, 20,000 tons of dirt and 2,000 uprooted trees later, there's no trace of Renee or Andrew MacRae. At this point, the search may seem hopeless, but wading through the speculations might give us the answers we seek. When it comes to Renee MacRae and her son Andrew, there are many speculations about what could have happened to them, but most of them fall under 4 categories. Theory number 1. Renee and her son were in a fatal accident of some sort. However, this seems less likely, as bodies have never been found, and if it were truly the result of an accident, surely there would be some remnants uncovered by now. Theory number 2. Renee ran off with her son and committed suicide. This also seems less likely. Renee, according to her best friend, was excited about the prospect of having a new life with Bill in Shetland. Why would she kill herself and take her son with her? It's possible she found out he was lying, but according to Bill, she never made it to his home that night, and he claimed he received coded calls from her after her disappearance. Theory number 3. Renee takes her son and intentionally disappears. This seems more probable than the first 2 theories, but why would Renee disappear on her own when she believed she was about to run off with Bill? Again, it's possible she found out Bill wasn't serious about leaving his wife, and she concocted a plan to disappear forever, but there's no trace of her or her son either. I think a hasty plan to disappear would have been uncovered by now. Then we have the theory that seems to have the most credence, theory number 4. Renee and Andrew met with some sort of foul play, and their fates and their bodies have never been uncovered. So, if Renee and Andrew were murdered, who did it and why? Of course, Bill McDowell was the main suspect, who was fairly silent towards the public for 28 years concerning Renee, but he's adamant he wasn't involved and had nothing to do with it. Of course, in the case of a missing wife, the husband is always a suspect, and the affair, which Gordon MacRae seemed to be aware of, didn't help his case. When Renee disappeared, the couple had been separated for an entire year. By that point, Gordon was living with and in a relationship with his secretary, and considered Renee a, quote, good friend and wonderful person. While Gordon did offer a $1,000 reward for information leading to solving Renee's disappearance, it doesn't sound like much for a millionaire. However, he was always very outspoken about wanting answers about his missing wife and the boy he'd raised as his own son. The reason for the small sum might have been due to an alleged financial struggle Gordon was suffering. According to Reddit user Aquiosly90, there were rumors Gordon sold Renee's apartment following her disappearance, and collected on insurance money on his burned BMW. There were also whispers of a collection on a life insurance policy. However, Gordon Jr. claims no money was ever received from any insurance policy. Remember, that's all speculation based on a Reddit post. I wasn't able to find any credible source saying Gordon's multi-million-dollar business was suffering. That doesn't mean the sources don't exist. It's very possible I missed something or the information isn't widely available anymore, but I think it's an idea to consider nonetheless. The bodies of Renee and Andrew have never been found, so if they were killed, their bodies have been hidden enough to remain concealed for 40 years. And if they weren't in the quarry as originally speculated, where did they end up? A farmer from the area named Brian McGregor, who has spent years extensively investigating and researching this case, speculates it's possible that the duo could be buried beneath a bridge that runs over the Highland Main Line Railway along the A9 road. He commissioned a ground-penetrating radar scan, or GPR for short, where a, quote, anomaly was uncovered in the foundation. Civil engineers say there is no record of any utilities or pipes that exist there. McGregor also came into contact with two men who were allegedly doing construction along that same stretch of A9 where the anomaly was found. They said the night of Renee's disappearance, they noticed one of the work areas at the bridge foundation was left, quote, disturbed. However, it was never reported as Renee's disappearance was being treated as voluntary at the time. McGregor believes it's possible the bodies were buried in the foundation of the bridge and remain there to this day. According to Transport Scotland, this section of the road has, quote, been identified for early delivery and should be shovel-ready by 2017. It is unknown at this point if any further digging has taken place, but it seems this vein of the investigation is still being followed. Hopefully, it will lead us to clues after 4 decades with no concrete answers. Bill McDowell later left Scotland, and him and his wife now reside in London. As for Renee's best friend Valerie, she just wants answers. She was quoted saying, "I have no doubt my friend is dead. All I want for her and Andrew now is a Christian burial. One of the most heartbreaking things about Renee's disappearance was there has never been a funeral or even a memorial in her honor. I think her friends and family all need some sort of closure on this painful saga." Renee's son, Gordon Jr., works for his father and provided DNA to authorities in 2006 with hopes of finding more evidence. However, he says there is little hope for anything to come of it. The most recent update came in November 2016, the 40th anniversary of Renee's disappearance. The family released a statement. 40 years have passed since the disappearance of Renee and Andrew, and as a family, we remain collectively heartbroken to have lost a much-loved and cherished mother, sister, brother, and friend to many. We cannot give up hope that somebody holds information which could help lead us to answers as to what happened to our beloved Renee and Andrew. Our message is, it is never too late. We are confident these answers will come from the local community, and as a family, we urge that person to come forward. Until such time, the person who caused harm to Renee and Andrew will continue to escape justice, and we will be without closure. Anyone with information is urged to contact police on the 101 if you're in Scotland, or Crime Stoppers via 0800 555 111, where info can be given anonymously. No matter what happened to Renee or Andrew, their families haven't seen them in 40 years, and both the victims and the family deserve closure. And if there is a killer, they at least deserve to know who is behind it for the murder of a mother and her young child. 2 lives snuffed out too soon. Thank you all for giving this case a moment of your time, and no matter what you believe or what you speculate, I only ask you for respect in the comments. And remember, though these may be dark matters, the darkness always matters. Thank you all for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any new videos from me. If you're looking for other similarly unsolved cases, you can click any of the videos on screen now. Stay safe, friends, and have a good night.